Okay, can I tell them something quickly? She's got this on there. It needs to come off.
Good day again, everyone. Sorry, there was a little bit of a technical glitch. Welcome to the second expert speaker session of the day. If the excellent presentation by Sven Gilliam is anything to go by, the next presentation will be a real cracker. Just a reminder, please, that any questions can be asked in the Q&A tab during the presentation. Our second expert speaker is Xoli Kakana, who will be speaking on promoting skills, capabilities, and gender diversity in EO and geospatial. So Xoli is the SANSA chairperson. Xoli founded ICT Works in 1999 and has served in as the company's chief executive officer since inception, overseeing the company's operations in South Africa and the rest of the African continent. An electrical engineer by profession, Xoli has more than 25 years of experience in the electronics engineering and ICT sectors, holding positions in many blue-chip technology companies. Since the start of her career, Xoli has positioned herself as a leader in the information, communications, and technology sector in this country, South Africa. Xoli has held several board seats and is currently a non-executive director at Broadband Infraco and ZA Central Register. She has been honored with a number of illustrious industry awards over the years. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Applied Mathematics from the University of Transkei, a master's degree in electronics engineering from FH Gießen, Friedberg University, Germany, a master's degree in business administration from Henley Management College in London, an MBA in technology management and innovation from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and a master's degree in public administration from Harvard University. Xoli, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Etienne, for that beautiful introduction. To the chair of ZA Space, the leadership of Geospace, and your colleagues, my colleagues from SANSA, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. As Etienne indicated, my name is Xoli Kakana, and I am the chair of the SANSA board. And whilst not busy with SANSA matters, I am the founder and chief executive of ICT Works, a woman-owned tech company. On being invited to give this talk, I reflected deeply on what to focus on. And I thought, finally, perhaps we should have a frank conversation on what it is that has slowed inclusion and diversity along racial, gender, and sexual orientation lines in our industry. It is an imperative. After 2 decades, After 2 decades of different initiatives and efforts to diversify the space sector, the status quo has not changed in South Africa. The sector is proving itself to be poor at attracting and retaining people from diverse backgrounds. I do not know to what extent this applies in other countries, but the space sector will have to be more deliberate in its efforts to promote skills, capabilities, and gender diversity. In talking about diversity, I include racial diversity, sexual orientation, and physical ability diversity. Please indulge me to begin my talk with my own story, a story of who I am, and perhaps I will share what inspires me, and hopefully this will give perspective why this topic is important to me. I decided to start with my story and then to follow with the transformation trajectory that our space sector has seen, particularly initiatives that have been making an impact, because yes, some progress has been made. And then just to talk about obstacles that conversing with several people, I just wanted to understand what are the obstacles to us getting this dream, diverse capabilities sector. And then after that, I invite you to envision with me, what would this diverse sector look like? And then we can talk about a way forward. So I am here to challenge us. So beginning with my story, my mother, Cecilia Nokoza Kakana, tells me a very beautiful story of boldness and courage of many, many years ago at a village called Umvenyane in the Eastern Cape, South Africa. On this September 1964 afternoon, she was in labor and could not get to the clinic because the roads had been damaged by heavy rains and storms. My father was on the other side of town and he could not come home to assist her. And the contractions were getting shorter and shorter in space and time. She carefully boiled water in a pot, took out a razor blade, and dipped a cotton string into a Dettol, that's our disinfectant. And at the last minute, she decided to step outside and call out the names of two elderly women neighbors, who immediately and with urgency abandoned whatever it was that they were doing. 2 hours later, a baby girl was born. So this is how I entered the world. As she tells this story in detail, I hear a story of innovation, identifying the problem, assembling an experienced team, gathering all the necessary tools, and improvising. This to me points to the inherent nature and capability of African women to innovatively solve problems. And so I'm here in this world because these two women chose to support my mother, Umuntu Ngumuntu Ngabantu. Inspired by coming across an article about a Russian woman astronaut, Judith Allen Resnik, who happened to be an electrical engineer, I decided that my career would be in the electrical engineering field. I was encouraged by a very dedicated maths teacher, an American lady, Miss Carol Gunn, who had left the United States to come and teach maths at a village school in KwaZulu-Natal. She was a great teacher. To her, a triangle was described as a peanut butter sandwich that is cut diagonally. Her descriptions of mathematical concepts were descriptions that I could identify with in my early life. So therefore, maths became my love, and she encouraged me to pursue an electrical engineering degree. Of course, at that time, as a Black person, you had to apply for a ministerial permit to study at a white university and had to complete a 2-year pre-engineering science course at a Black university. None of the Black universities, of course, offered engineering degrees. Cutting a long story short, after 2 years, I decided to complete a BSc in mathematics and applied maths at that university, which was the University of Transkei. And then I went on to Wits University to study electrical engineering. I failed my 3rd year and I got excluded from the university. Of course, my story was told to a good Samaritan, the late Mr. Eric Mulobi, who then he was very committed to education. So on hearing the story, he arranged a scholarship for me to Germany, where I completed my diploma engineer, which is my master's in electrical engineer. I cut my teeth in corporate South Africa at the dawn of our democracy, and there were many profound lessons learned, but that's a story for another day. So after my corporate career, in 1999, armed with my mother's pension payout, which was granted without any questions asked, I went on to establish ICT Works, a systems integrator. ICT Works was started because of my determination to conquer what at that time was defined as an industry that was owned, run, and managed by white males. Because of my love for mathematics and technology, I was always going to follow a career path that involved technology. And what drew me to it was the fact that the strides that are made in technology, they always manifest in people's everyday life. I'm proud to say that ICT Works has, through a very difficult political and economic environment, grown to become a recognized contributor to technology innovation in South Africa and in the continent. This, of course, I attribute to the support of my business partners, two other women, Ms. Sindile Msibi and Ms. Maggie Sibia, who left their secured IT jobs at the major banks to give life to a shared vision for inclusivity of women in the technology space. My hope, of course, is that the company will serve as a beacon of inspiration to other young women and as a place where women, like all other employees as well, can come to work to fulfill their potential with next to no obstacles. Now, I want to talk about the space sector. So after, I think it must have been in 1998 when yes, it was 98 when I was a part of the executive team at ICOMTech, CSIR, and space operations at that time was a division of ICOMTech, which is the division I work for. I was later appointed to the Space Council, through which I got exposed to the entire sector. And actually, I also had some participated in equity in a company called SANSA, which was in Stellenbosch. So the first initiative of capacity building and skills development that was directed at those that were historically disadvantaged was at an institution in Grabo called ISA, which is the Institute for Satellite and Software Engineering. And this initiative was driven by the then Director General of the Department of Communications, Mr. Andile Ngama. There was an initial intake of 467 students who were divided into 3 streams, as you see on the slide. And of course, he decided to leverage the partnerships with the corporate companies. ISA developed the following sections of postgraduates. It was 10% were masters in remote, 10 were masters in remote sensing. Then you had 15 in graduates in software engineering, and you had 31 software engineering masters, and you had 55 satellite engineering masters. And these masters were obtained through the University of Stellenbosch. When you ask yourself where these graduates are right now, you will see on the slide that they have been absorbed by various different sectors. And at the time when this statistic was done, I think there wasn't a Centec and there wasn't a, and the DSI had not started its own projects. So you will see that I think when I asked the student, or one of the people who were products of this program, I was told that only 10% were retained by the space sector. That to me remains a big question. Please pardon me, my slide is jamming. Please pardon me, I'm just having a little hiccup. My slide has jammed. Was Lawrence quickly? You'll pardon me, my internet is a bit intermittent, so am I back on? Okay, I'll assume that I'm back on. So when I ask around and ask how many were retained by the space sector, I'm told that almost only about 10% from this initiative were retained. My next stint has been that at SANSA. Luckily, this board came in at a time when we were defining, we had an opportunity to define and plan for our 2020 to 2025 period to define our strategy. We came up with a vision in order to make sure that we can fully fulfill our legislative mandate. We came up with a vision, an integrated national space capability that responds to socio-economic challenges in Africa by 2030. And that is a deep aspiration of SANSA. Our mission is to provide leadership in unlocking the potential of space for the advancement and benefit of humanity. And SANSA currently puts its focus on 4 main areas: Earth observation, space engineering, space operations, and space science. So Earth observation is one of 4 main focus areas. Although these areas are interlinked really, but we have 4 main streams and Earth observation is one of them. We are, of course, in the process of redeveloping our business model in order to ensure that we attain our strategic objectives that we defined after our envisioning process. SANSA also has, over the years, been doing a lot towards skills development and capacity building. So we begin with awareness creation, where we touched, in the last year, we touched 46,000 young people in 36 districts in South Africa. There are no selected districts. We are intending to cover the entire country, but we are only able to do what is allowed in our resources. We also fund postgraduate students, an average of 40 to 50 students per year. And the graph seeks to just show you how many students we've been funding since the past, for the past 4 years. So 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and by honors, masters, and doctorate and doctoral studies. You will see that of that 10% is not 10%, 45% is Earth observation students by numbers and their degrees, which is not a big number considering what is needed and the opportunities that lie downstream from this sector. So on average, every year we are funding around maybe 18, and even there, it's a matter of how much resources we have. Human capital development underpins our vision and is a driver of our vision. There is no way that we can achieve what it is that we say we are looking to do, a diverse sector, if we do not focus on capacity development and ensuring that it is completely inclusive. So, on doing some research to just understand what it is after so much investment is being made to develop students, and some of the students are leaving and going to other sectors. On trying to find out what it is that is doing this, there were many responses. Some were saying we see a very clear resistance to transformation in some of the organizations that we go and look to work in. They talk about difficult transitions between graduate studies and the workplace. They talk about the lack of deliberate leadership development programs. They talk about the shortage of opportunities that are engaging, opportunities and projects that are engaging, that bring aliveness and excitement to them. They talk also about difficulties, and when you look and say, but why are there such few companies? Because there's all this data and there's so much that can be done with it. People talk about difficulties in securing funding for entrepreneurial ventures. And of course, some of the entrepreneurs say we opened and closed because there is serious lack of market access. On trying to find out from others what really happens in the workplace, and because I also worked in the corporate sector, just trying to find out what these difficulties really are. I was told that the reality is that Black employees, and particularly women, they leave companies faster than they are being hired, because many of the companies are painful places for them to work in. Getting in through the door is one thing, but staying and progressing up the ranks in those companies to a position of influence and meaning is another story. In most of these companies, leaders are predominantly white, male, and heterosexual, for example, or come from a similar educational and socio-economic background. And it becomes very difficult to penetrate even when there is no deliberate effort to keep people out. I'm told that in many companies, there are still subtle structural obstacles in place that create these non-inclusive work environments and can easily fuel a feeling of imposter syndrome amongst these professionals. These structural issues entail things like inconsistent performance review processes where where reviews for promotion are inconsistent, unclear and arbitrary paths towards promotion, an ambiguous process for reporting bad behavior and secret conversations. These private back channels create exclusive environments that prevent open and productive conversations. I can personally attest to some of these experiences as I was trying to climb the corporate ladder. And I have seen it happen even in some empowered companies, because clusters will always form. So yeah, just yesterday, because I was asking myself the question, then what should be done? What shall we do as a sector in order to make sure that despite all of these things, we are able to be alert to see these things, to manage these things so that we can retain the people, the investments that we are making towards hiring new people. What is this shared vision of a fully capacitated and a fully diverse EO that genuinely unlocks social economic benefit for society? So as I was pondering this, just last night, actually, my children were watching a documentary series called Chasing the Sun, where Rassi Erasmus, the coach of our Springboks rugby, the Boge, our world champions, he names what ensured his team the win. He says, other than innovation, hard work, and preparedness, he went and identified that one of his opportunities to winning the World Cup is to use all the resources of the country that are available to him. His choice of Captain Siya Kolisi, the first Black African Springboks captain, brought the nation together. It made them unstoppable because there was support left, right, and center. Admittedly, there had been some transformation since 1994, but Rassi shook the tree and found deep talent in unknown names who have now become stars in South Africa. So this is a call for us to come together and envision what sector we are looking for. For Africa to realize the youth demographic dividend aspired to by Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, Earth observation services and products must be tailored to support millions of African households, starting with the Sustainable Development Goal 4 that relates to quality education that must produce knowledge workers that have a multidisciplinary mindset for developing a competitive African economy in the fourth industrial revolution, what a long sentence, and the big data era. Only a diverse and inclusive workforce can achieve this, more especially women, because we are in touch with what is happening in these African families, in the African economy. As we continue to envision, what came to mind as well is that EO is true to its promise by genuinely unlocking socio-economic benefit for all society. It goes beyond just supporting the broad mandate of our government, but by providing business intelligence to enable investment choices by African businesses and penetrates the business process of the African household economy, where the 420 million African youth aged between 12 and 35 reside. That's the EO that we envision. We envision a demographically representative large and small SME industry where demographically representative SMEs are the main players, driving and leading in export of homegrown innovations to the rest of the world. We have an opportunity because there's an impetus that is made possible by the recently acquired funding of the Space Infrastructure Hub, and other large infrastructure programs are in the pipeline. So we envision, therefore, an EO that has a diverse human capital being at the center of delivering on these projects. A wide spectrum of companies, startups, small, medium, and large demographically diverse companies being able to make sure that they convert, they deliver value in this opportunity that is brought to us by this new project. In conclusion, companies need to provide an environment where people from all kinds of backgrounds can do their best work. In order to get to the light at the end of the tunnel, industry needs to come to terms with how we got to this place so that we can all work together towards reversing it. The future of the space industry does not only lie in the hands of government and the agency, but in the hands of industry, the employees individually themselves, new startup founders will come in with a fresh pair of eyes, and investors. What's become very painfully clear to me is that commitment from the top of each organization is not optional. There are no substitutes for an unequivocal commitment from the leaderships of these organizations. Just last week, there is a transformation that is to be celebrated. I was very excited to see South Africa appoint its first Black woman Auditor General. She is a member and she rose through the ranks of OCA, which is the African Women's, sorry, what's happened to my slide? Sorry, which is the African Women's Chartered Accountants Organization. This is an organization which decided to set its mission towards the development of African, Indian, and colored women chartered accountants, and started preparing them for leadership roles. Their motto is identify, nurture, and lead. in identifying, which I think we do a lot of in our sector, identify and develop young girls who aspire to become chartered accountants, CASAs, for entry into university to pursue a degree that will allow for them to enter into the profession. Then they have programs that nurture and train these women who are completing their articles as well as newly qualified CAs, because like I indicated, many people said it gets very lonely to enter industry after university. There's too diverse a gap. And then they've got very robust leadership development programs where they groom these ladies, these chartered accountant ladies, for them to be able to hold key decision-making positions. They literally hold lunches with them, and they throw them into the deep end by ensuring that they participate in meaningful decision-making. As I was planning for this conversation, I had the privilege to chat to the chairman of their advisory council, Ms. Cindy Mabaso, who shared a few insights with me. What stood out to me was the fact that they partner with industry to ensure a supportive career development path. They are striking, their results are striking. In 2003, South Africa had only 407 African, Indian, and colored women chartered accountants out of a total population of 20,903. So they were 2%. With their deliberate and concerted efforts from various stakeholders and partnerships, transformation gained momentum and the numbers increased. By June 2019, they had 6,625 out of a population of 45,428 chartered accountants, so making 15%. They moved from making 2% to making 15%. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, it is incumbent upon us as an industry to determine our definition of what is winning. Otherwise, there will be no winning, and therefore we can kiss transformation goodbye. I thank you for this opportunity. Hello,